Welcome back. We're here to preview Saturday afternoon's game between Southampton and Hull City. Now we'll start with the visitors. They're quite out of form at the moment. At the weekend, lost 3-1 at Swansea.
Yeah, I think it was a disappointing result, wasn't it? The fact that we went to Swansea, who, like I say, we've not got too much to play for, trying to finish 8th, but not in terms of, pushing for Europa League or at the bottom. And I don't know, it was a difficult game. They went 2-0 down. It's always difficult at Swansea because they keep the ball well, and I think obviously Hull went with their normal formation and tried to flood the midfield, but it is difficult against a Swansea team, like I say, who do have Shelby in there and they make it difficult. A couple of good goals, obviously. The first one, not too sure about the goalkeeping. McGregor sort of, he probably should have done a little bit better with that, and Key slotted it in. The second one for Gomez was a good goal. Got the goal back with McShane, but never really sort of pushed forward. I mean, there's plenty of Hernandez up there and Ndoye, trying to do things. But when Swansea got the third goal, obviously, that's game over, and it was disappointing. Got a player sent off as well, and I think it was a poor challenge. I think it's a bad injury for Norton as well. I think it was a 50-50 challenge, but he went over the ball. He didn't get there. Didn't make contact with the player, and obviously that's just another thing. So Huddleston sent off, didn't they, last time out before that game, and just losing their discipline a little bit. And we'll talk about their run of games. They're struggling at the moment, and the fact that they did lose this is another obviously massive game, doesn't get any easier, and they got a horrible run in. So
definitely, you mentioned that run in there, it does get really hard. Southampton here, tough game, and then they've got Liverpool. Palace away is really hard. We've seen that. Palace at home is one of the toughest games in the league, I think, the way they play at Selhurst Park recently. Then Arsenal, then they host Burnley, which is all, the game they were targeting as a win. Then they go to Spurs and finish with a home game against Man U. So they've probably got the toughest running out of any of the sides at the bottom. When you look at their points total, they're on 28 at the moment. They're QPR down in 18th, 26. They're only 2 points behind them. Burnley just 2 points behind as well. And both of those sides are looking good. QPR especially is starting to find their feet a bit. Burnley, they'll always try their hardest and almost get there. Leicester are getting better. They had a win at the weekend. And then you've got Villa and Sunderland just a point above Hull. So it's really tight at the bottom there, and it looks like it's going to be a really good race, for whoever goes down. But yeah, you mentioned that run-in. They're going to really struggle, I think. And at the moment, when you just look at that run-in, you have to say they're probably one of the favourites to go down, I reckon.
You mentioned they're on 28 points. I think 36 points stayed up last season. So you're thinking it might be a little bit. It might be more than that. I mean, Leicester are really struggling, I'd say. But like you say, QPR and Burnley and teams like that, they're picking up some points. So 36 points last season was enough. It changes every year, but that's a massive arc, isn't it? Moving on to Southampton, they've lost three of the last 6 in the league now. Poor run of form. Last time out went to Everton, and if they were going to finish, in the top 4, probably had to win that game, didn't they? Because, like I say, United and Arsenal both in good form. City obviously still up there despite their poor run of form, but it was not too much in the game. Everton scored, Jagielka, and they tried to sort of force the issue down the other end, but Pello's not in great form at the moment up front, and they're nice and solid, Southampton, but when they do fall behind in games, you worry a little bit, don't you? If they can edge ahead in games, and they're strong at the back. Alderweireld did a good season, and Fonte at the back is a very good player as well, but lost that game, and it's a bit of a problem now because they're on a poor run of form.
Yeah, but like we talked about Hull's running being difficult, but you look at Southampton's, theirs is pretty good. They face Hull here, Stoke, they then go to Stoke, who are a bit out of form themselves. They play Spurs, which is obviously a big game for those European places. Then there's Sunderland and Leicester in the next 2 after that. So Southampton's run of form, I think they've still got a good chance of finishing in the top maybe 5 or 6. They're only a point because Liverpool and Spurs, neither of those sides won this weekend. So Southampton on 53, Spurs and Liverpool on 54, a point ahead of them. The top, like you say, the top 4 race probably is over now. Even though City, are tailing away, they're now 8 points behind City. You can't see them clawing that gap back. And with Arsenal and United looking in good form, they're not going to drop out either. So, 5th and 6th, if Southampton can finish in either of those places, be a great achievement by Coleman. We were talking about Gary Monk for Manager of the Year earlier, and I think Coleman's got to be one of the contenders as well, maybe about 4 or 5 contenders. And it's been a great season for them. And if they can finish 5th or 6th in the table, it will be a great achievement on the whole.
I mean, I think the fact we've been talking about them in potential top 4 race at the start of the season, people backing them to get relegated, weren't they, last season? Finished with 56 points, and everyone was saying, what a great job Pochettino's done there, and he did do a really good job. They're on 53 points now, so you'd expect them to better that. Say that even if they, lost every game and picked up 1 point, they're on the same as that. So the fact that they are sitting in 7th, they've been good at home this season, won 9 times, and I think against the bigger teams they've struggled a little bit, but they'll fancy their chances against Hull, like I say, especially if they take the lead. And overall, it's been a great season. Whatever happens now, they can build for next season, but they might have a problem in the summer again because Alderweireld is obviously going to be probably coming back to Atletico, and they're going to be players. Schneidlin and Wanyama might want to be poached as well. So difficult summer, but it's been a good season. Definitely.
So looking at this game, you probably argue that there's more in it for Hull because of their plight at the moment. They might fancy themselves getting something out of this against Southampton's side. Gone a bit off the wayside a little bit. What's your score prediction?
It's difficult to back Hull, isn't it? Like you say, they've got more to play for, but they've never won at Southampton in the league, so it's a big ask to go there. like you said, you wonder whether Southampton may be taking their eyes off it a little bit because obviously disappointment of dropping that top 4 race. But I think Southampton will win this game. I think we'll just nick it 1-0.
1-0. Yeah, I actually completely agree with 1-0. I think, you know, even though Southampton haven't been great recently, they're still pretty solid defensively. They don't concede too many goals, and no winning 5 for Hull. It's hard to see them ending that streak here. And I mean, I have to agree with you 1-0. So both picking Southampton to win 1-0 here. Thanks for watching.